Hi guys, welcome to my workshop. I just want to take you along on this journey that I'm about to start. I've had some friends ask me and comment a few times saying, hey man, you should put some of this stuff online to help people out. You can see my tiny workshop here. I don't have huge amounts of gear and equipment like some of the other channels that you see out there. There's some really great channels where they show you how to do work with limited amounts of stuff. You can see sitting on the trestle here in front of me is a 1974 Suzuki TS 250. They're actually a really cool little bike when they're working and you do a bit of work on them. They're really super reliable two-stroke and they're a bunch of fun. I've restored a few of them over the years. This one I actually inherited, bought, I'm not sure, from a person that had started doing like a scrambler kind of conversion on it. And started doing work and then kind of got a bit tired of it. You can see that they're a pretty cool little bike. They're fairly well built for its time. Steel chassis. You can see that there's been a little bit of work already done, sort of stripping some of the components off. There's a bit of damage here that needs to be repaired, and they've started to cut the back loop off to shorten that for for that look that everyone chases. Fairly well built, pretty sort of tough componentry, fairly oversized bits and pieces on the bike. Probably the pivot bolt's a little bit small, but it's only a small bike. So the reason I wanted to take you guys on this adventure is that this one is not really a standard scrambler build. It's going to be an electric one. A lot of my friends have told me, hey man, you should try something a bit different. So that's what we're going to start embarking down that rabbit hole in the next little while. So some stuff that I found really useful over the years that I can definitely apply into this space is that it's always really handy just to mock up what you're trying to do before you spend any money on anything. That's some of the best advice I've been given by some of my mentors over the year. Take the time to do the playing and mocking up before you actually get the angle grinder out or any tools out, and that will let you fully understand what the work that you're trying to do and that journey that you're trying to go on actually entails. So I'm actually really lucky. I have access to a 3D printer, which is absolutely invaluable. I found that when you actually have one, you never stop using it. People have told me, oh, there's a bit of a gimmick, and actually I use it for all kinds of things now. Printing up little hooks for coat hangers or anything. And I actually was really lucky with this particular job. The motor manufacturer that I'm talking to for the motor actually has 3D CAD shells that are available. So they were kind enough to send me the CAD shell for the particular motor I'm interested in for this build. So I was able to actually 3D print that motor out. Now everyone thinks, oh, why bother? Well, immediately we know spatially that this motor is radically different to the standard internal combustion motor that's sat in there. We know that it will fit, so we know that the width of the motor is not too wide for the chassis, so it sits outside the foot pegs, which is totally legal. And also we know that it's actually pretty damn close to sitting in the right spot for the original engine mounts. Now that really matters because we don't need to have engineer certificates for this conversion. As soon as you go messing around with the chassis as far as the motor is concerned in Australia, you end up in all kinds of trouble. You need an engineer's report, they need to see the progress, it needs to be TIG welded, there's a whole bunch of things there. So let's not even think about getting into that if we can possibly avoid it. So I was really lucky in the sense that this little motor is a perfect fit for this particular chassis, and it took a bit of finding to find this motor. This is a bit of an interesting one on this project as well, that I'm going for a water-cooled motor and water-cooled motor controller, which seems like overkill for a motorbike, because most motorbikes are air-cooled for the simplicity. However, this particular motor is rated at 20 kilowatts all day, every day, provided you give it cooling water. So most motors that you see out there, they say, oh hey, it's 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 kilowatts. That's 40 or 50 kilowatts peak, so that's only for a few seconds. Whereas this thing will actually continuously deliver 20 kilowatts non-stop. It'll actually go up to about 80 kilowatts peak, which is a huge amount of power in a motorbike. But probably the power is not what I'm really after. I'm after the torque. So this will do 40 newton meters of torque continuously, and up to 90 newton meters of torque peak. So the torque is the fun bit. The torque is the bit that makes you pop the front wheel. And when you don't have the noise of an internal combustion engine, the torque is what you're chasing. And that's some valuable insight that I learned off another really great YouTuber recently on electric motorbikes. His advice was chase the torque. So I'm going to take his advice and I'm going to chase the torque. So this is really useful. We can see visually straight away that this motor is probably going to be a pretty damn good fit. I haven't spent any money buying a very expensive motor to find out that it doesn't fit. The other thing too is that it's worth talking or considering your battery. So batteries are an absolute pain in the ass. They come in limited sizes and shapes because companies try and mass produce them, and that allows them to get the cost down. Makes sense? It really sucks for doing conversions because it makes them very difficult to fit. So talking to my friendly battery expert, this is 1/2 of a battery pack. So the battery pack is double this width, and it's a cardboard box. It cost me nothing to make. It cost me about 20 minutes in time. So we're able to see straight away that actually spatially we have some issues straight away. So motor is kind of fixed. It needs to drive the chain drive. I could play around with gearboxes and put the motor up here and then redirect down here, but that gets really complicated and very expensive. So immediately we can see that we have some fouling down here on the chassis, and if we load the pack that way, which we probably could fit 2 of these under here, we have some fouling here around the chassis, which is a little bit of a headache when it comes to the motor mounts. So immediately I'm in talks with my battery guy, and I'm like, hey, is this pack like the only pack shape we can run with, or can we have like a shorter, fatter one, or like a skinnier, shorter one, and like a few of them? So again, really valuable to do this exercise to see where it will fit. And I guess I'm telling most of you guys to suck eggs, but some of the new guys that are trying to do these conversions will run into this. And if you get really kind of laser focused on, shit, this battery pack is the best and I really want that performance, and you just kind of lose sight of the end goal, which is you're actually going to make this thing all fit in here. So I hear some of you guys saying, hey, why are you keeping the tank? Like, you might want to get rid of the tank. Actually, the tank's a really nice shape, and the tank on a motorbike kind of gives it its identity. It lets you know that this is an early model bike because you've got this nice teardrop tank. It's actually a lovely shaped tank on these bikes. It says fast just by that kind of shape that it is, just by sitting still. That's the first thing. I really like the tanks on these old earlier Suzuki's, Yamahas, Hondas. The other thing is that actually inside there's some really useful space. So up in here you've got the hump on the top of the chassis, but you actually have all of this space over in here on both sides to package up stuff. So what do I mean by stuff? Well, there's a whole bunch of components on electric vehicles that you need. So for the new guys to electric vehicles, you need an electric motor. Duh. You need a battery pack. That's your power. You need a charger of some description to charge your battery pack. You need a battery management system that allows you to look after your batteries. You also need a DC to DC converter, which allows you to run all of your electrics, like your lighting, your indicators, any other electrical things that you need to run on your bike. And you need contactors, and in my case I need a radiator, and I need a water cooling pump, and I need a radiator fan. So you can see I'm starting to run out of room already on this vehicle. So I need every little bit of nook and cranny space that I can possibly find to stash things in. And this space up here is actually really useful for me. So I'm going to keep the shape of the tank. I may use this tank. I might copy it out of fiberglass. I'm not sure just yet. It's up in the air. I need this space in here for other components, like perhaps the motor controller, perhaps the radiator maybe. I don't know. I'm just working out. I've got to get all the bits and pieces either printed or mocked up and see where they're going to fit over the next little while. So that's kind of where we're at with this project today. Last night I worked up the design for the bracket, and I'm just 3D printing that up at the moment just to check that that will fit and make sure that I've got the right alignment on the chain running through to the back wheel. The next challenge is I've got to look at fork conversions. These forks are the original. That's a fork leg. They're actually in really good condition for the age of the bike. Most people would be extremely envious of these, but I've ridden bikes with these type forks on them. They're really, let's just be honest, pretty shit. It's like riding with a piece of spaghetti on your front wheel rather than a rigid fork. They really are quite flexible. They don't have proper dampening in them. They're really old technology. So big challenge for me is to look for an upgrade for the front suspension, and that lets me get better brakes. Better brakes on the front means I don't die. The other thing is I want to, on the back of the bike, I want to look at replacing the rear hub from a drum brake hub to a disc brake hub, and that allows me to get better brakes and not die. And also I can drop a bunch of weight. These fork legs are really heavy. They're about 5 kilos. A new, RMZ fork leg is about half that. And same with the hubs too. The original hubs on these bikes are big drum brake hubs, quite large in diameter. They're made out of cast aluminium and they're fucking heavy. Plus they're heavy wheels. So I'm adding weight all the time by adding all of this stuff. I want to try and take as much off at the same time as I can. So I've got rid of the massive internal combustion engine and a gearbox, which is great, but I'm adding a freaking huge heavy battery pack and a water cooling system and chargers and so on and so forth. So everywhere I can, I'm going to try and strip weight out of this bike at the same time, and hopefully I end up somewhere in the vicinity of the same weight thereabouts as the original machine, which shouldn't be too hard on these older style bikes because they're pretty damn heavy. And all the main components on them are really heavy. They used to have steel mud guards, and steel tanks, and all of the heavy bits that come with that, and 1,000 million tin brackets that I'm hoping to get rid of off this bike too. So hopefully I can cut about 1 kilo's worth of steel out of the chassis with all of these funny brackets for oil tanks and stuff that are no longer required. So yeah, that's the journey. I'm going to post some videos on the build progress, some videos on some of the 3D printing work that I'm doing the mock-ups, and some videos of just chopping bits off the chassis, and hopefully when we get all the components, starting to hang all that together. It's not going to be a fast journey. I'm not going to be one of these guys that posts videos every week. I have a family and kids and no money, so I'm like pretty much 90% of the rest of the world. It will take time, and I will try and keep it as consistent as I can, but life often gets in the way of really cool projects. Alright guys, thanks for that. I'll catch you.